On the last several years, I have reviewed many nitrosamine risk assessments, some very thorough, others clearly rushed. What I have observed is that most regulatory failures are not due to missing data, but to how existing data is interpreted and presented. That's what I would like to focus on today. In practice, teams often assume that if the data exists, the assessment will stand, but from a regulatory review perspective, that assumption is weak. Most nitrosamine risk assessments fail for one primary reason: the logic connecting the data to regulatory expectation is incomplete. The assessment may include raw materials evaluations, theoretical calculations, and even analytical results, but the narrative does not clearly explain why those elements are sufficient to control risk. Regulators are not only evaluating whether data exists, they are evaluating whether the conclusions drawn from those data are scientifically and analytically defensible. Over-reliance on theory. One common issue is over-reliance on theoretical exposure calculations without adequate analytical confirmation. Calculations can support risk ranking, but they do not replace a discussion of method sensitivity, LOQ capability, and real-world variability. From a reviewer's standpoint, theory alone does not establish control. Weak nitrite logic. Another frequent gap is inadequate treatment of nitrite sources. Nitrite is often discussed narrowly, limited to water or a single excipient, without a broader evaluation of cumulative sources, process conditions, or degradation pathways. When nitrite control is treated superficially, the overall risk assessment becomes fragile. Analytical strategy misalignment. Analytical methods are sometimes presented as an afterthought, rather than as a core pillar of the risk assessment. Reviewers expect to see how LOQs are selected, whether they are fit for purpose related to acceptable intake limits, and how method robustness supports ongoing control. Without that linkage, even good analytical data can fail to convince. In summary, most nitrosamine risk assessments do not fail because teams lack data. They fail because the assessment does not clearly connect data, analytical capability, and regulatory expectations into a coherent argument. In future videos, I will walk through how to structure that logic in a way that is practical, defensible, and aligned with how regulators actually review these submissions. Thank you for watching.